Hello and welcome to Hit the Bricks.
Everything that's interesting about Guthrie, Oklahoma.
I'm Chris Evans. This is Justin Fortney.
Hi.
First installment.
This is super scary.
It is.
Yeah, terrifying. We should just sit here and look at our phones the entire time.
Yeah, well, we're on now.
Right, we actually are.
This is where the cliff dive begins.
Right. So on our first episode, we have a very special guest, Mike Williams.
Hello.
Works over at the Oklahoma Territorial Museum. Is that the official name?
The Oklahoma Territorial Museum and Historic Carnegie Library.
Oh, I'm so glad we got that right.
Yeah, it's a long name. It's a long name.
Mike, tell us what you do over there at the museum.
Well, I'm one of the curators at the museum. We've got two of them. Erin Brown, she should be watching right now.
Hi,
so
Erin.
we'll say hi to her.
Which is weird because I usually watch her when she does the HP.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's right.
reversed.
Yeah. She's on that HP board. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Yeah. She is the whip cracker, I think. And but hey, that's cool.
That is cool.
So what does the curator do?
Well, we collect, preserve, and share. Kind of in simple terms. We take in the things that are in our collection. We, work to make sure that future generations have access to those collections, and are able to study and look and see what life was like at the beginning of Guthrie and the beginning of the state. And then we share this information. We dig deep into the things that people give us, and we try to figure out where they came from, who they belong to, what's their place in the story of us, So, yeah, it's a big job.
Yeah, speaking of the story of us, tell us why the Elmer Mccurdy story is the greatest story of all time. I tell this story to a lot of folks, but I make up like half of it because I'm not a curator and I'm not a historian, so it doesn't matter whether I lie or not.
Yes.
And these are all, I've seen the series on TV, so is TV do a good job of portraying it?
Yeah, see, that's if they talk to me, if they talk to me, they're doing a good job.
Yeah.
If they're not talking to me, then they're probably telling stuff that's just made up.
Yeah.
Okay, so give us the real story about Elmer Mccurdy.
Well, the real story, Elmer Mccurdy he was a bank robber, train robber, all around bad guy, and he gets killed after they'd robbed a train.
It happens.
It happens, yeah. And you walk that wrong side of the law, and guess what? You might end up dead. So, so what happens to him? So
pay attention, kids.
Yes. Do not follow in his footsteps. But anyway, they rob a train. They take off. Posse comes after them. They end up in a gunfight in a barn. He's kind of sleeping off a drunk up in this barn, and the posse shows up. So many bad
habits.
Yeah. Posse shows up. He gets shot. He's killed. They take him to Pawhuska, because that was the closest town to him, and they take him there. He gets embalmed. Nobody will pay to bury him. The county won't fork over the money for the embalming or anything like that. So he sits in a back room, and he over the course of a couple of years he mummifies, and everybody finds out that there's this mummy at the funeral home. So they go and see him. The guy's like, well, I could probably make a dollar off of this. So he starts charging people.
He's still over in Pawhuska at this point, right?
Yeah, he's still in Pawhuska at this point. So he's there for about 5 years. And then all of a sudden a couple guys show up, and they tell him that, hey, that's our brother. Mama's back in California, and she wants him to come be buried next to her because she just passed away.
That's awkward.
Yeah, and so the guy's like, well, I don't know how I'm supposed to give him to you guys. You're just telling me a story. So they go to the courthouse and get the county attorney to swear out a statement that this is our brother, and they brought it back, and he's like, well, okay, I have no choice, and he gives it to him. And a couple weeks later, he's in a sideshow in Amarillo. And he spent the next 65 years in sideshows and
circuses.
Yeah, movies.
So his brothers took him. Sold him to
no, they weren't his brothers.
Oh, yeah.
They were carnies. There we go. Right. Carnies took him. So he goes off and he becomes traveling mummy.
Typical Carney ruse.
Yeah, exactly.
Tell him it's your brother. You can do anything you want.
Yeah. So anyway, he spends, like I said, 65 years doing this, and has this long career. He's in a couple movies. Narcotic. Look it up on YouTube.
Okay.
He's a opium fiend.
I'm gonna IMDb that.
Yeah, and I don't know if he's got his own page. Maybe we should start him one.
That'd be great.
I know. Yeah.
Okay. Note to self.
So anyway, he's in they're doing this episode of the show, The $6 Million Man.
I loved that show when I was a kid.
And it was called, the episode was Carnival of Spies. And so they're shooting it at this the New Pike amusement park, and it's in Long Beach, California. So the crew's inside of the fun house, and they're trying to set up the shots and everything. One of the guys knocks off the arm off of this mummy that's hanging from a noose. And it's red, it's painted red. And he goes and he's going to tape it back on, and then he starts looking at it. He's like, that looks like a bone. So, he gets with some of his buddies. He's like, is that a bone? You guys think that's a bone? And so they go over and they look at this body, this red body that's hanging from a noose. And, they start really looking close at it, and it's painted red, and it doesn't have any clothes on. And they keep looking at it close, and then finally they're like, oh, yeah, that's a guy.
That's a human.
Yeah. That's a guy. And so anyway, they call the coroner. The coroner comes and gets him. They take him in. They're going to do an autopsy, and they realize he'd already been autopsied. He has this, Y incision from an autopsy, and they're like, "Oh, what's going on with this?" And so they do it. They do the autopsy. They get in there, and they find what's called a gas check. All right, it's a copper jacket that goes around a lead bullet. All right, and which makes it grab the rifling in the barrel so that it'll spin straighter. And so if it spins straighter, it'll go further and it's more accurate. Okay, these come out in 1905. This is when you first start seeing gas checks on bullets. And then they were testing the body, and they found all this arsenic in it. And they're like, oh, he was embalmed with arsenic. And so they knew, because they stopped using arsenic in 1930. So they knew they had a 1905 to 1930. This stuff goes out over the wire. And some people are here at the news leader, the Guthrie leader, all right, the editor. And God, his name escapes me right now. Hate that. But anyway, the editor of the news leader is in his office, and Fred Olds, which was the first director of our museum, was there, and also a guy named Glenn Shirley. And Glenn Shirley was a historian, and he wrote about Oklahoma outlaws and lawmen and all this. And so he's reading this story. Bill Lehman, that's who it was. He's reading off this, like, what do you guys think about this mummy? And so Glenn Shirley's like, yeah, I know who that is. And he tells him, he says, this guy named Elmer Mccurdy. He's like, I got a whole file on him. I know this whole story. And
that's handy.
Yeah. So anyway, they kind of rile Fred up about it, saying that somebody needs to get this guy because it's in California, so they're probably just going to burn him and dump him in the sea. So he's like, okay, yeah, we're going to do something. So he calls. He gets on the phone and he calls the L.A. County coroner, telling him that he wants the body. He wants to bring it back to Guthrie to have it buried. And so all this stuff about, how are you going to prove this? How do we know this is true? And so they kind of laid out this whole series of reasons why it's him. They call a guy, his name's Clyde Snow, and he used to work for the FAA in Oklahoma City. But he's one of the people that started forensic anthropology. Mm-hmm. Okay, he got that started as a field of study, and he developed this way to identify known people, and it was called photo superimposition, where he would send. He'd get a photo.
Did you just make that up right now?
Yeah.
We'll never know. Right?
Yeah. He he would get a photo of a known person and then project it up onto a skull that they thought was this person, and by the markers on the face and the bones, he could, identify the people. Well, they had photos of Elmer because of what was known as the Bertillon System, and this is where mugshots come from. This was before fingerprinting, and so they had all this kind of information on him because they would measure your fingers, they'd measure the length of your arm bones, they'd measure your skull, your ears, all of these things. So they had these detailed measurements of this man's body from him going to prison, and so yeah, they were able to make this identification that it was him. And California was like, well, okay, yeah, you guys can have him, but you have to bury him. You can't make a sideshow attraction of him anymore. He's got to be buried. So in 1977, 89ers Day, for the parade, they had a funeral procession, and they had a horse-drawn hearse. They had people on horseback. I think it was the marshal of Osage County was the leader of the procession, and he was on horseback, and he had a shotgun, and all these guys are dressed like cowboys with their guns on, and they bury him in a pine box.
That's the creepiest parade thing I've ever heard of a funeral. That's
and that
awesome.
was here. That was here in Guthrie.
We should do that every year.
We need to find some more outlaws, don't we?
Or just recreate the Elmer Mccurdy funeral every year.
Oh, yeah. Well, it'd be kind of cool, actually. And
so they buried him here in Guthrie.
Yeah, at Summit View. Yeah. He's out buried next to Bill Doolin.
And there's a sign I think out there. I think I saw a sign.
There's a sign that leads you to Boot Hill. Yeah. Boot Hill. I get it. I laugh so much about Boot Hill because when you get out there, it's more like Boot Gully. It's not up on the hill.
Somebody told me that where he's buried was in they buried him in a bunch of concrete.
That's true? That's the story. It's. I've heard multiple versions of this. One is the sheriff at the time, or maybe he was the chief of police. I don't remember exactly which one, but it's named Leroy Sears. Put concrete in the hole. That was one story.
Why?
So that nobody would come and dig him up. That was the thing.
The show must end.
Yeah, it's like we're not going to let this guy go out and be exploited like that any longer. So they dumped. I mean, they're very specific in the fact that they dumped 3 yards of concrete into this hole. Okay, so some people say it's him. When I talked to Clyde Snow, he said it was a guy from the state that did it, and so. Which one is it?
Mm-hmm.
Is it the Guthrie hearsay story that it was Leroy Sears, or is it the guy that identified the body and had more to do with the burial than anybody else that I've talked to, saying that it was a guy from the state health department that did it? Because they actually released the body to the state. Not to Guthrie.
Okay.
I'm
totally okay with going with the most exciting story possible.
Yes.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's the thing, and that's the thing that we fight with all the time is that people love the myth stories.
Yes. Speaking of myths, Chris and I get really angry about how Oklahoma City stole the state seal from Guthrie. So
yeah,
right? We're
all
the time talking about how we're angry about that.
They've taken several things.
Yeah,
but that's near the top.
Yeah, tell us why we shouldn't be angry at Oklahoma City.
Well, for one, there was an election. There was a vote of the people.
Democracy ruins everything.
Yeah, every time.
It gets worse.
Yeah, every time. It's well,
there was a contract or.
No. What it was. I should just bring my hammer and just start beating y'all's theories down here. No. What happens is when the Enabling Act to create the state, there had to be an election for where the site of the state capitol would be. Okay, and it had to happen by 1913. Okay, that was it. So everybody assumed that it would be in 1913. All right. So Guthrie, at the time, was a very Republican city. All right? I think things have changed.
That's the show after us.
Yeah, anyway. So anyway, at the time, it was a very Republican city. A lot of these people that were living here were from the Midwest and from the northern Great Plains. Okay? When Oklahoma becomes a state, you bring in all these people that are living in eastern Oklahoma and southern Oklahoma that were from the South. And so once statehood comes along, the Republicans are totally outnumbered. And so when we start having elections, who gets elected governor? Charles Haskell. Is he a Republican? No, he's not. But he comes to Guthrie because this is the capital. This is the territorial capital, so it transitions into the state capital. And Frank Greer, the guy that ran the state capital publishing newspaper, he hated him. They hated each other. Think about it. Republicans, Democrats. Didn't like each other. And so Frank Greer just roasted him on a daily basis in his newspaper because, this is the mouth of the Republican Party in the state.
Super handy that he had his own newspaper to roast him with.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's
he had the forum.
Right. Yeah, exactly. It's not like newspapers are Democratic establishments.
Sure.
They kind of have their political affiliations, whether we think they do or not. The leader was started by Democrats. It wasn't.
So what you're saying, we blame the Democrats for the capital not being Guthrie.
Well, you probably could. Yeah.
Okay.
You probably could do that. I'll give you that one. I'll give you that one. But anyway, so the story is that Charles Haskell finally is like, I will see, grass growing in the streets of Guthrie. We are not gonna. This is not gonna be the capital of the state. It's not.
What a jerk.
So he's like, let's have this election. Let's do it now. And so in 1910, he calls for the election. So here's who's
because it was
involved.
too Republican. They wanted it somewhere.
Well,
why not Guthrie?
I'll come back to that.
All right. Thank you.
I will come back to that.
I need to get frustrated here.
But that's part of it. It wasn't democratic enough.
Yeah.
It's like the people living here were, political appointees from the Republican Party. Because your territorial governor and the judges on the Supreme Court, all of these jobs, the marshal, they were all appointments from the President of the United States. So whoever the president was at the time, this is in territorial times, he appointed the people that worked, for his campaign and stuff like that. The spoils system and graft, those types of things. So everybody's angling for these jobs. When David Payne would bring the boomers into the unassigned lands, they were always going to settle down around Oklahoma City. And he saw this area as the site of his new Philadelphia, the place where this would be the site of the future, capital of a new state and all this. So, I mean, it was already in their rhetoric that Oklahoma City was the place. Mm-hmm. Guthrie was a usurper to the boomers, the Democrats, all of this, and even I think one of the first pieces of legislation for the first territorial legislature was to move the capital from Guthrie to Oklahoma City.
And Shawnee was in the running too.
Shawnee, when we get to the election in 1910, Shawnee's in the running.
Too anxious.
Yeah, exactly.
I need to slow down.
Exactly. So it's Oklahoma City, Guthrie, and Shawnee. And Oklahoma City gets double the amount of votes as Shawnee and Guthrie put together.
Because they had a thunder.
It's a landslide. Well, I think they knew that was coming.
Right.
I think they foresaw the thunder. And so they're like, we got to make that happen. It's just makes sense.
Make room for KD.
Yeah.
So if we want to hate a specific person,
okay.
Do we hate Mr. Greer or do we hate Governor Haskell? Haskell the rascal.
You could hate either one of them.
Either one of them?
You could probably hate both of them.
That sounds
because they're
good.
both in politics.
I have all the hate to go around. I can hate both of them.
You can hate both of them.
Yeah.
I say equal opportunity. You
Right
know,
on.
yeah. I think they both played a part in this.
Okay.
That and money and party politics and sour grapes and
Now, the other part, you hear people in Guthrie, the Capitol was at the Temple, the Capitol was at the Logan County Courthouse, the Capitol was at the State Capitol Publishing Museum.
My house.
Your house down the block.
Let's dispel the State Capitol Publishing Museum
Yes.
as the State Capitol. It was a newspaper, and they printed paper work and made textbooks.
Printing machines.
Yes, it was never, ever the Capitol building of the state of Oklahoma or the Territory.
Yeah.
Catchy name though for a newspaper though.
Well, one of the things is that look at the spelling. How do you spell capital? On there it's AL instead of OL. Mm-hmm. OL is the building and AL is the city.
Ah,
There's a big difference.
There is a big difference.
Yeah.
And I always catch myself when I'm typing, did I put O right? Okay, I did it right. So,
Yeah.
this podcast is super educational.
Yeah.
So see,
then you throw in money, too.
You throw in money.
That's another triangle of the OA.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, and at the time, business people or entrepreneurs, that's the word we throw around. At the time, they were capitalists. Mm-hmm. That's what they called themselves. That's what they referred to themselves as.
With an A.
Yeah. So the Wall Street Journal.
So a capitalist with an O would be someone who just walks around building Capitol buildings. Is that what a capitalist is?
Maybe.
I think that's right. I have to watch the replay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Could be, but I don't know.
And we're speaking with Michael Williams of the Oklahoma Territorial Museum on Hit the Bricks. There's so many.
You're good at this.
Oh, it's my second time. There's so many things, and we'll talk about how people can hear more stories like this over and over inside the museum. But one of the things that draws my attention every time I go in there is that big flag.
Oh yeah,
huge flag.
Yeah,
you can't miss it.
Can't miss it. Yeah, we've got a wonderful flag there. It was. There's a little bit of controversy whether we've got the one that was made in the Carnegie Library or if we've got the one that was made in Philadelphia. We think we've got the one that was made here in the library. But there were two of these made, one here and one in Philadelphia. On the flag, there's a star that says Oklahoma, July 4th, 1908. Okay, and this is one of those, Justin's got that look of, why does it say that? So why does it say that? Do you know?
No, I have no idea.
Okay, because when did Oklahoma become a
I'm
state?
not a curator,
07.
Michael.
Yeah, in 1907. So, but this flag says July 4th, 1908. Well, the reason is because whenever we add new states to the Union, we add their stars on the 4th of July.
Hey!
There you go. I was leading him to the answer.
It's like I'm in middle school again.
On the 4th of July. Yeah, exactly.
Answer the question,
Exactly. So now we're going to get in some really deep into symbolism on this flag. Okay, so where that star that we're talking about, it was put on the flag in Betsy Ross's house. And who's Betsy Ross?
Famous person.
Okay. And she did.
Proper noun.
Flag.
She
So,
she
flags.
sewed the first flag.
Yeah.
Okay, the first United States flag was sewed in Betsy Ross's house, and that's where this star was put on. And then they took it to Independence Hall, and they flew it over Independence Hall. What's Independence Hall?
They signed things, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, they signed the Declaration of Independence on July 4th, 1776. And our flag flew up right over that building.
Yeah.
Heck yeah.
So here it is. We've got this flag that's filled with all this patriotic symbolism. This flag that makes us a part of the creation of the United States of America, and it's right here in our museum.
They don't have that in Oklahoma City.
They don't.
Well, until they
don't.
steal it, but
Well, maybe we should stop talking about it.
Yeah.
And so they don't know. Maybe they've forgotten that it's here.
Absolutely. Michael, I got a student in junior high and I got a student at Central, so I dropped my kid off at junior high and then I head to Central.
Mm-hmm.
and every day I drive by the museum, and there has been some huge renovations going on. Out there. I mean, the workers have been hot, cold. They've been through everything, and you see the state vehicles out there, and it looks wonderful. But just talk us through the process of what happened and how.
Well, they started building this building in 1902, and over the course of time, things start to degrade. A lot of the mortar on the bricks was degrading, which, is actually what it's supposed to do.
It's happening to me. I'm 42.
Yeah, I'm degrading too, but
my mortar
is coming loose. Yeah. And so, a lot of it's coming loose, and so we had to have a lot of the brickwork repointed. It needed fresh coat of paint on it. The limestone steps were.
That's what sticks out.
That's what sticks out.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we would go under it, and on the underneath side, they were totally falling apart.
It's exactly the junior high renovation. They found the same thing with their steps underneath it. It was just blown out.
It's one of those. They've been there for all this time, and like when I came in here, we were making jokes about the ice melt out in front of the city hall. And, back for years, there was no ice melt. It was rock salt.
Yep.
And so they pour rock salt on, to these steps and onto the concrete and stuff like that. And, of course, it's melting ice, but it's all absorbing into the limestone because this limestone is still porous, and it's going through, and it's just eating away the bottom parts of it. And there were some of the steps that were down to about 20% of their thickness. They were just in bad shape. And but that's just part of it. Buildings. We build buildings, and you got to do maintenance on them. And
those steps are mammoth.
They are
huge. Absolutely. Front.
Yeah.
How much do they weigh a piece, probably?
Well, you know what? When I try to pick one up, yeah. I mean, it's like they were coming in with a crane truck to take them off and put them into place. So these are not. Yeah, they're
big honking.
These
steps.
are big honking steps. Yeah. So, so that we did a lot of that stuff. Most of we've done two separate projects. We did some leveling projects. We did some getting the water to flow away from the building because the foundation of the building is sandstone. And so we get a lot of seepage, into the basement and things like that. And, so we did some work earlier to fix that to where all the, runoff went away from the building and it didn't pull there and, seep in. And then they did the others and, did the painting. We matched the paint to the original color. For a long time it was silver. But we went back through and we looked at, the records because we've got all the records from when the building was built. So we can go in there and look at the paint colors and find out what was close.
It's like a museum.
Yeah, imagine that.
It's
like a museum.
So the total restoration, any idea how much that cost?
I don't. I really don't. It was all capital improvement money from the state. And so, the actual cost, I don't know, but it did bring a lot of money into this community. Yeah. I mean, it was a lot of money was spent, and those guys were here. I think we started at the end of February last year, and we just did the final walkthrough. I think about 3 weeks ago.
Wow!
And so it was a long-term project.
It was kind of cool to watch it progress though over the time, and because I didn't know the exact layout, what they were doing. They just kept doing more and more. And it really, again, that stone really sticks out.
Yeah.
It looks good.
Yeah, it does look good.
It's one of those deals, it's historic, so you try to keep it the way it was, but then you can't do that because then it's just going to go away.
Then it's just going to go away.
So.
Well, but with the stone, with the steps, they didn't come from the exact same quarry, but they actually come from the exact same geologic level. Gotcha. And so the contractors actually went and found a quarry that was in the same geologic strata, and they did a really good job of matching it up. So
they did.
It may not be from the same place, but it is the same
it just
time
looks
period.
shiny. It looks new.
Yeah,
I'm sure it's
it
the
looks
same.
new.
It just looks new.
Yeah.
It looks really cool.
Yeah.
Man, we can go on for like 2 more hours on this, but we talk about Elmer inside there. Talk about the Capitol and the Democrats and Oklahoma City folks over there. The flag, the renovation. What's something that people even here in Guthrie might not know what's going on with the museum?
Oh man, I don't know.
It's always changing.
It's always changing. Yeah. Right now we've got an exhibit that's on women's suffrage. Okay. Yes, I did say woman's suffrage, not women's, because that's what it is.
AE.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So, so it's on women's suffrage because this past November was the 100th anniversary of women getting the right to vote in Oklahoma. Okay. So that's not that long ago,
No.
but still, it was the 100th anniversary. So we kicked off this deal with the Oklahoma Historical Society, where ours is the first exhibit, and we did it based on The Wizard of Oz, the book, not the movie.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Yeah. Most people have seen the book, seen the movie, but very few people have read the book. But
Frank Baum.
yeah, right. And it was written as a political allegory about bimetallism. Okay, and
That old thing,
bimetallism, and what bimetallism is a economic standard that's based on gold and silver. So the dollar would be based on gold and silver as opposed to the gold standard where it was only, they only used gold. But bimetallism, it was thought by people in the West that if we used silver, there would be more money available because there wasn't a whole lot of money out here on the plains. And, people needed it. They were land rich, but cash poor. I mean, that never changes, does it? And, when I say bimetallism, it would be that a pound of silver is equal to an ounce of gold. So, a 16-to-1 ratio. All right, so 1 pound of silver equals 1 pound of gold. So you take a pound of silver to the mint, they're going to give you whatever the value of it was, however they determine that. So, what's gold now? $1,000 an ounce or something, somewhere north of that. Well, then a pound of silver would be of the same value as that ounce of gold. Okay. Anyway, so there's this complicated system of money, and all of these characters within the story actually were real people or a representation of a class of people. So I'm not going to give it all away. You can come down and take a look at it.
So if you go now, that exhibit is throughout the Carnegie, right?
Yes.
So you can walk around and see different
right.
stations or
Yep.
the different word to them stations, but
Yeah.
whatever that is.
Yeah, different panels. We tell it all throughout the Carnegie Library. We explain who all of the people are. We tell you who the witches are, and we tell you who Dorothy is, and we tell you who the Cowardly Lion is.
Is the Lollipop Guild in there?
No, it's not. Yeah, no, we left that one out.
So the Wizard of Oz was just Frank Baum trolling all these people that he hated. That's fantastic.
Somewhat, sorta, kinda. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm good with that.
You could say it like that.
All right.
Surely the movie's better than the book, right?
Well, it depends. You got to read the book.
I love the movie.
The movie's
Love
awesome.
the
The movie's awesome. I will throw a spoiler at you though. This might upset you. Yeah. The ruby slippers.
Yeah.
That's just in the movie.
Well, that'll be our
In the
show this
book.
week. We'll talk to you next week.
In the book, they're silver. And think about this. She's got silver shoes. You got it already, don't you?
Yeah.
She's got silver shoes, and they're walking on the
Gold.
yellow brick road.
Oh man.
But red makes the color pop.
Yeah, Technicolor.
Technicolor,
Yeah, exactly. This was more about advances in...
Because that was the transition from black and white.
Exactly, that's right. So they wanted something that would
Pop.
and
Yeah.
sparkle. Yeah, so ruby slippers.
Cool stuff. I mean, there's hours and hours of stuff. Okay, so
Yes.
how hours, and what's the process? Go in there and get a tour. You can do it on your own.
Yeah, it's pretty much self-guided.
Yeah.
You can do self-guided. We do tours. But you got to give us some advance notice. Yep. Since it takes so much time to do a tour, we want there to be at least 10 people. Because, if you want to come and do a guided tour and it's just you, I'm charging you for 10 people. Because it's well worth it.
Yep.
Days and times?
We're open Tuesday through Saturday, 9 to 5. And our last entrance is at 4:30. Because that's about the minimum amount of time that you could spend in there.
And you guys have kids throughout the state go through that museum all the time.
All the time. Mm-hmm.
Number one question 4th and 5th graders ask.
Where's the bathroom?
Where's the bathroom?
Yeah. When do we get to go to the gift shop?
Yeah.
Those things. It used to, when I first started, they taught the land run in the 4th grade.
Yep.
And like maybe 2 years, I was there 2 years, they changed it to the 3rd grade. And so, here we've got this extremely complex story of how this land went from, public property to private property. And we try to explain it to 3rd graders.
Attention span.
So attention span and
lights,
flags. How do you simplify this story to the point
that was
where
me, not a 3rd grader.
how do you simplify this to the point where 3rd graders understand it? So now we get a lot of people, adults that come in and they have all these misconceptions about the land run. Sooners. Who are Sooners? The answer we get from people is
7th place in the Big 12 basketball standings. Oh,
we get cheaters.
Yeah.
Cheaters. They're cheaters.
Yeah.
And then it's
jump the gun.
It's like, well, who are the boomers? And they're like, well, those are the people that waited for the cannon to go off. It's like, oh, okay. Where's this cannon? We're talking 2 million acres.
That's a lot.
It's a big old cannon. So I mean, it's do we need to put more emphasis on teaching this to older kids? I think so.
Yeah.
Because it's an extremely, like I said, complex story, and I think it's beyond 3rd grade.
I know it was required when I was in high school. Many moons ago.
Yeah, but I think they spend more time on Indian removal.
Yeah.
And tribal issues once you get into high school.
I love my Oklahoma history class. That was fun. I remember it well. So,
thanks for being here and educating podcast hosts today.
Yeah, it was great.
That was awesome.
Right on. So we're going to talk about some upcoming current events.
Yeah,
and stuff.
This show's hit the bricks,
right.
And obviously everyone in Guthrie and around the state knows that the devastating fires in downtown. Building in Byron Berline's Double Stop Fill Shop and Furrow's Flowers and Gifts. Tough thing to watch, but good news is the initial report is they're going to hopefully be able to be rebuildable. What that looks like, we have no idea, but that is good news. I mean, when you're watching it burn, you're just worst case scenario. We've always heard about these fires in the past and empty lots in downtown. The good news is that's there, and community churches opened up for Byron to continue his shows that he always had on the 2nd floor.
That's really cool that he's going to keep playing music. He's going to keep playing music really soon. So when's he going to be playing next?
It's going to be at Community Church, Byron Berlin Community Church, 7:30, $12.50 at the door. And I think
this Saturday.
This Saturday, this Saturday, and the doors open at 6:30.
Yep, 6:30 and $12.50 for a show of that caliber is kind of ridiculous.
So, it's cool.
And I think they are going to be able to take cash, cards, that kind of stuff at the door.
Yep.
So, but get there early to make sure you get a seat, to a general admission type deal. So,
and I think it'll be a pretty cool atmosphere.
Yeah, I think it'd be fantastic just for a sellout crowd there at Community Church, which is down on I-35 at
Seward.
Seward.
Yep.
Yeah. Another show that was going to be happening there at the Double Stop Music Hall next Tuesday was a group called Open the Door for Three. It's like Irish music, and they are also going to be doing their show there at the Community Church. Community Church has been super generous at opening their doors for some stuff, but and the tickets for the that show, Open the Door for Three, those are $20 at the door, and that's also a 7:30 showtime. I'm not sure about what time the doors open for that, but I would imagine it's somewhere in the 6:30, 7 o'clock range. So that's also there at Community Church. So fantastic. Irish music. Open the door for 3.
Another cool thing going on, of course, everyone in Guthrie knows about the Tipsy Artist, but this Saturday, Tipsy Artist Paint Party. VIP packages are available now. Of course, you go to tipsyartist.com, and she is a big deal, not only here in Guthrie, but she goes around the state. But she has a VIP party this Saturday night, March 9th, and I think everybody has gone through it a couple of times, but it just she keeps adding more and more to it, so be sure to stop at tipsyartist.com.
That VIP package includes, I think, you get extra wine or something like that. You get to get super, super wined up.
Yeah.
So it becomes like a Jackson Pollock kind of paint party.
And they got the loft upstairs, the
Atomic Loft.
Atomic Loft, yeah, that's a cool place too.
For sure. Some more music coming up. Let's see. On the 15th of March, Jim Garling, Cowboy Jim, is going to be playing music there at Hoboken Coffee Shop at 10 o'clock in the morning. So if you're not a night owl, you go out in the evenings for late music enjoyment, you can also catch some music in the morning. So that Friday, Jim Garling, Hoboken Coffee Shop. It's a free show, so you can go there and catch some free music. But make sure you tip your barista, and tip your musician that morning. It's pretty fantastic to have some good coffee and good music from Mr. Garling. And the last thing coming up, this is a little bit down the road, but the Pollard just finished a show, Pollard Theater, Almost Maine. It was fantastic. But what show do they have coming up in April?
The Beehive.
Beehive, the musical. And that's going to include some kind of classic songs from the 60s, sung by some folks who are going to be portraying some of the classic female artists of the 1960s. So a lot of those favorite tunes that you love from, Aretha Franklin and Janis Joplin and that kind of stuff. But you can go to thepollard.org.
Pollard.org, and the show starts April 12th?
April 12th. And you can go ahead and buy your tickets now from the Pollard. So,
very cool.
Yeah. This has been fun.
Yeah, it's been great. It's amazing when you do these how time flies by. We can still talk to this guy for another 2 hours if we wanted to.
Hey, yeah.
We have a regular story time.
So, man, we appreciate everyone tuning in for the first time and checking us out. We hope they renew our contract and we're back next week. But always a big thank you to Aaron behind the scenes, producing all this good stuff, helping us out. Of course, Michael Williams with the Oklahoma Territorial Museum. Appreciate him taking some time out today. And, of course, my good friend, Justin Fortney. I'm Chris Evans. We'll talk to you next time when we hit the bricks.
Coming home.